If you could please rise for the playing of our national anthem and our school alma mater. Board of Education, administration, faculty, staff, well-wishers, both here and abroad, and class of 2021, I warmly welcome you to Neshannock High School's 62nd commencement ceremony. Tonight, it also gives me great pleasure to welcome home Dr. Robert Bully, a distinguished graduate of the class of 1974. So how about this year? If you're like me, it's compelled you to think differently, deeper, critically, and introspectively. When I walk the halls of our school, and it's quiet and still, my mind goes to all the things our graduates have seen, endured, and survived in their years since receiving their diplomas. After all, our first class of Neshannock graduates will begin to turn 80 years old this year. They walked out of our building with endless potential, a sense of irrepressible readiness, just like you will. Then there was the Vietnam War, the days of disco, the rise of personal computers, the fall of the stock market in 1987, Desert Storm, triumph and turmoil, the millennium, Facebook, and our collective burden, an international pandemic. Through rain and sunshine, lessons they learned during their time as Lancers have guided them. They will guide you too. Consider it to be a promise. We adults have often advised seniors to be resilient. Life can get pretty unpredictable, but the class of 2021 has taught the adults some lessons too. With that said, I urge you to be present. Life is sometimes overwhelming, often distracting, and always busy. So when you are able to be present, and by that I mean to be able to live in the moment without looking for what's next, to be at peace, with your devices powered off, clear-headed and content, do not sacrifice the moment. It's far too precious. John Lennon sings, "Life is what happens when you're busy making other plans." Be present. I know we all look forward to the day when we can retire the phrase "in response to COVID-19," yet our generational responses have taught us quite a bit about each other and our social conscience. For many, it was a recalibration, a call to be present. Our existence is fragile. It's finite. It's often predetermined. Breathe in the moment. What's next will happen regardlessly. So hopefully you were present during this chat, but if you weren't, there's plenty of opportunity to watch it again and again and again on YouTube. So I leave you with these words. Approach life by living it. Wake up each morning with the notion that the best is yet to come. Take each day and contribute to its goodness. Best wishes and congratulations. You are a Lancer now and forever. Since the time we have invited distinguished alum to return to their alma mater to impart words of wisdom upon our graduating classes, we have heard time and again how valuable it is to hear from fellow Neshannock graduates, women and men who have sat in these seats and had a similar journey, as it is our school's 62nd year of collective experience. One such exemplar is with us tonight, Dr. Robert Bully. Following his graduation from Neshannock High School in 1974, Dr. Bully matriculated to Pennsylvania State University, where he earned a Bachelor of Science in Plant Science in 1978. He continued his studies at Penn State, earning a Master of Science in Mammalian Physiology. In September of 1982, Bob began medical school at Cornell University Medical College, earning a Doctor of Medicine degree in 1985. Dr. Bully is currently Associate Professor of Clinical Orthopedic Surgery at Weill Medical College of Cornell University. Additionally, he serves as Associate Attending Surgeon in the Hospital of Special Surgery, Chief Emeritus, Hip Preservation Service, and Associate Attending Surgeon at New York Presbyterian Hospital. Dr. Bully has made his mark particularly in the areas of hip reconstruction, joint replacement, and adult reconstruction. He holds board membership in organizations including the International Society for Hip Arthroscopy, International Cartilage Repair Society, International Society for Technology and Arthroscopy. Dr. Bully is extensively published in scholarly medical literature and is renowned in his practice. Bob and his wife Lynn call Larchmont, New York home. They have 3 grown children and enjoy spending time in their vineyard in Italy. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Robert Bully, class of 1974, back home.
Good evening. How you all doing? You guys excited? Big night. I'm excited. I'm so glad to be back here. This is something so different for me. I'm used to speaking to a bunch of old doctors. You know, sometimes we get medical students and residents, but I really would like to thank Principal Passarelli and the Neshannock School Board for this opportunity. I'm really happy to be here tonight. You know, it was 47 years ago this very week that I was in your shoes. Now, I don't want to claim that I'm that old, but when I was in high school here, you know that dinosaur up here on Mercer Road at Elder's Farm? It was still alive at that point. And I used to drive to school on the new plank road. You know, gasoline back then was $1 a gallon, but we didn't have much use for it with our horse-drawn wagons. You know, just kidding, of course, I'm not really that old, but it's really amazing how the time just flies by. And I understand that there are about 100 of you graduating tonight, and I believe my 1974 class had about 115 baby boomers. I read the announcement in yesterday's Newcastle News about your class and the graduation, and that the class movie is Selena, really, from 1997? I mean, you guys weren't even born yet. That's the one with J-Lo, right? Yeah, okay. Then I guess, you know, So I guess I shouldn't be too worried about my 1990s film references that are going to be coming up later. And the class song, We Are Young, from 2011, well, at least you were in elementary school then. And yes, you are young, ages 17 and 18. Goodness, I think I have ties older than that. So first of all, congratulations, you made it. Years of hard work, dedication, and determination have paid off. This is one of life's stepping stones that you'll never forget. From high school, I have numerous close friends with whom I am in contact constantly. In fact, 3 of them were in my wedding. What can I teach you? I mean, you guys already know it all or can find it out instantly on Wikipedia. But how times have changed. When I was a student here, there was no internet. And you, on the other hand, have never experienced life without it. There were no personal computers back then. We did have access to one primitive computer the size of a Volkswagen that used punch cards. And now I hear that every student gets a Chromebook laptop. There were no calculators. We had to use slide rules. We were implored by our chemistry teacher, Mr. Schmid, to get them smoking hot to do our calculations. And I'm sure that none of you have ever even seen one. Maybe if you saw the movie Apollo 13, you can see the technicians furiously working their slide rules to perform life-saving calculations. Secondly, I want you to turn around or either applaud or at least give a big thumbs up to the family members behind you who love you, support you, shelter you, and did all they could to get you to this day. And to all the teachers and staff that guided you through your time here. You owe them so much. Third, I want you to realize the potential you have and how fortunate you are to live where you do and when you do. I too was so fortunate to live in the United States in Neshannock Township when I did. My parents were not so fortunate. I'm half Ukrainian, half Italian. My dad's parents came to Pennsylvania from Ukraine to work in the steel plants. My dad was a GI and married my mom in Italy at the end of World War II. My mother, born in Italy, only made it to the 5th grade. In Mussolini's fascist Italy, it was deemed that this minimal amount of education, just enough to read and write, was sufficient for young girls. It was more important for them to go to work to support the government regime. My dad only made it to the 8th grade at Shenango. It was 1932 during the depths of the Depression. He had to find work to support his impoverished family. My dad's brother, 6 years younger, finally did get to graduate from Shenango, but my grandfather had to receive his diploma at graduation. Why? World War II was raging, and he joined the Army Air Corps 6 months before graduation. Now I tell my kids, drive carefully, please text me when you get there. But these young guys were flying suicidal bombing missions and were engaged in combat. We all owe them so much. Hopefully, we will never again experience such economic meltdowns and such catastrophic wars. Through the miracle of science and medicine, it has been possible to begin to start to control a catastrophic worldwide COVID pandemic, very reminiscent of the 1918 influenza pandemic. Admittedly, it's been a horrible year for everyone. And hopefully none of your future educational experiences will have to be done with remote learning. So be thankful for where you live. You can do what you want, you can pursue any occupation or passion, receive excellent health care, express your opinions, and travel as you wish. Unfortunately, in large parts of the world, that is not the case. England's The Economist magazine classified the governments of 167 countries into 4 categories of democracy: full democracy, flawed democracy, hybrid regimes, and authoritarian regimes, dictatorships, or absolute monarchies. You may breathe a sigh of relief. You live in a country with full democracy. Unfortunately, despite how much better the world is following 2 world wars and the fall of communism, 36% of the world still lives under an authoritarian regime. Many school children, even today in parts of the world, risk kidnapping or even death just by attending school. While some would debate whether we are the greatest country in which to live, I would contend that there aren't many better. We certainly are not perfect, and maybe someday you can do something to improve upon that. I've been to several countries where these essential freedoms do not exist, and I can tell you it's quite an unnerving experience. Be grateful for your freedoms. You live in a country where people risk their lives just to be here, to be in your shoes. A generation ago, there were many countries, some still exist, where you could be killed simply for trying to leave that country. Imagine that. My dad's Uncle Nick came to Newcastle from Ukraine in the 1920s, made a bit of money but missed Ukraine, and he went back and bought a nice farm. When the Russians came through in 1939 at the beginning of World War II, he and his family were sent to a gulag work camp in Siberia. His crime? Owning a nice farm, believe it or not. Fortunately, they survived 6 years in the work camp and were finally able to return home. So with all that has been provided to you in terms of freedom and opportunity, you are able to pursue your dreams and your passions. I love the quote, reportedly by the singer Mark Anthony, also attributed to Confucius, "If you do what you love, you will never work a day in your life." My patients and friends ask me, when are you going to retire? I love what I do, and I will continue to do it as long as I can. Mr. Passarelli told me that 90% of you are headed to college, which is great, but you certainly do not have to go to college to be successful and have a great life. People like Bill Gates, Elon Musk, Stephen Jobs, Larry Ellison, Mark Zuckerberg, all names that you're familiar with, either did not go to college or never finished, and they've certainly done well for themselves. Where I live north of New York City, some of the most successful people I know never went to college. Get a skill, be good at it, and people will beat down your door for your services. 2 of my children went to college and have wonderful careers. 1 did not, and he's been very successful and happy using his incredible musical and culinary talents. I've already stressed how fortunate we are to live where we do. I implore upon you to try to make this world a better place. In the movie Saving Private Ryan, Tom Hanks mused upon the benefit of finding the elusive Private Ryan. And he said, well, I hope he cures some disease or invents a longer-lasting light bulb. It certainly does not have to be something so dramatic to make our world a better place. Simple things. Care for your neighbors and your fellow citizens. Have compassion and empathy. Volunteer. Teach. Join the Peace Corps. Teach for America. Share your talents. One of my most rewarding experiences has been the medical missions that I've done to Ukraine to teach and perform surgery. 70 years of communism really decimated their medical system. They needed a lot of help. They still do. We had to do surgery under incredibly primitive conditions, such as the case of a malignant knee tumor in a 15-year-old, where we had to use a custom-made prosthesis that the family had to smuggle in from the Czech Republic at their own expense. We even had to send the implant during the operation to the hospital machine shop to shorten it because it didn't fit. I'm happy to report that the patient not only survived, but the knee is still functioning 23 years later. I cannot express to you how grateful people can be when you open your heart and strive to make a difference in their lives. Respect your elders, that goes without saying. Do not let anyone deny your dreams. Quoting the Olympian sprinter Gail Devers, keep your dreams alive. Understand to achieve anything requires faith and belief in yourself, vision, hard work, determination, and dedication. Remember, all things are possible for those who believe. Now, try not to do what I did. I was a model student here when I was here at Neshannock. I went off to college, and with my newly acquired freedom, I partied like crazy and almost flunked out after 1 year. And I mean, it was the 1970s after all. So I eventually recovered academically, but I really believe that I blew my chance for medical school because it was so competitive. And in my last year, I met with the intimidating physiology professor who taught the brutal course required by all pre-med students. He looked through my academic record and said, forget it, you will never get into medical school. And sometimes it takes that type of wake-up call to get motivated with the attitude, I'll show him. Fortunately, I redoubled my efforts, and it was enough to get me in. So do not let anyone tell you that you are not smart enough or talented enough to live your dream. One more bit of advice. This iPhone is an incredible device. It has 100,000 times the computing power of the computer that allowed Apollo 11 to go to the moon, and 7 million times more memory. I love my phone too, but this should not be your world. This shouldn't be all-encompassing. This should be your world. Live in it, experience it, interact with people, Look them in the eye and say hello. Be that creepy person who smiles at everyone. They'll wonder what you're up to. I often see young couples in New York sitting together at dinner, both of them just staring at their iPhones. And as you go out into this wide, wonderful world, I hope you will always remember where you came from. When I took Mr. Frediani's speech and drama class here at Neshannock, right in this auditorium, there was a textbook that we had for the course. And there was a map of the United States with defined speech patterns or accents. And there were all the large expected areas: New England, the South, the Midwest. On this map, there were only two small unique areas. One was New York City, and the other was a little circle, Western Pennsylvania. And we saw that, we said, get out, yin's jagging me. We's up there on that map, sit on. To this day, I can immediately recognize someone who's from Western Pennsylvania, even people on television like the comedian Dennis Miller. It's a nice way to remember your roots, and that accent is like music to my ears. It makes me feel like I came from someplace special. Speaking of what we learn in high school, I will close with an anecdote. And you can file this under, you never know how useful something that you learned in high school can be. As you've heard, I'm an orthopedic surgeon. I do what I can to fix damaged hips and knees. Years ago in my English class here with James Carson, we had to memorize the prologue to Geoffrey Chaucer's The Canterbury Tales, written in Middle English in the 1300s. Back then I thought, when the hell am I ever going to use this? So fast forward, recently I saw a woman who needed a hip replacement, and she'd already seen several surgeons and wanted another opinion. She was shopping around. After discussing all the treatment options, as I usually do, I inquired about her occupation. And she said that she was a professor of literature at Columbia University, specializing in Chaucer. I said, well, here's my chance after all these years. So I looked at her and said, when that April with the shore is sute, the drought of March has pierced to the rute, and bathed in every vein in swish liquor, that virtue which is engendered to the floor. And she looked at me and said, my God, you can fix my hip and recite Chaucer? I'm going with you. So, in summary, congratulations to you and to your families. May all your dreams come true. May you find success in work and love. And may you always be happy in all your life's adventures. And I thank you for listening.
Thank you, Dr. Bully. I hope that you were present for that speech. If I dug a little into that, I saw that we kind of had the same theme going. We didn't even work together. So that be present thing, it's real. And those are very, very timely words. And for more timely words at this time, I proudly welcome your salutatorian, Sophia Hassan.
Thank you, Mr. Passarelli. Good evening, parents, guests, staff, and graduates. I'm so excited to be speaking to you tonight. That might sound like a strange word to describe this, but it's the truth, because up until this year, I actually had no idea that salutatorians give speeches at commencement. I've never been to a commencement before, in case that wasn't obvious already. But let's get started, shall we? Being completely virtual since last March, I haven't been to the school very often. When I do go to the school, though, I'm reminded of how much Neshannock staff has done to ensure that our school is following the standards set by the CDC. Look at the ground and you see one-way stickers telling you to keep to this side of the hall or that, depending on in which direction you're walking. Look at the walls and you see automated hand washing stations, as well as reminders to wear your mask. Of course, it's really down to the individual student to do his or her part in keeping those at Neshannock safe, but the staff has certainly contributed to making it easy and attractive to abide by CDC guidelines. Teachers, thanks a million for doing what you do, especially during this past year and a half. You had to adjust to a whole new means of teaching, and I know I speak for the entire school when I say that we appreciate it beyond words. It isn't easy to adapt to recording Loom videos going over the lesson when you're used to teaching in front of a full class, but you did it, and I thank you. We thank you. We know you missed your full classrooms with students asking questions, starting conversation revolving around the lesson. And Google Meet live sessions are a close substitute for this, but that is what they are, a substitute, albeit a necessary one in certain cases. Even in-person classes this year felt strange, unlike those we're familiar with from past years. That is what I've been told, at least. But teachers, you made the best of this. You did what you could to ensure we were learning the same content that we learned any other year. And again, it definitely didn't go unnoticed. Guests, you have been our support systems, our rocks. While getting used to these strange new times yourselves, you have helped us acclimate, either with school or with life, in whatever way you can. Thank you for being here tonight. After all, you're a key part in why we students are here tonight. Whatever role you play, parent, grandparent, sibling, aunt, uncle, cousin, friend, you've played it incredibly well. I know I'm not alone when I say that I wish I could give medals to all my guests for just being who they are, both in the time of COVID-19 and throughout my entire life. I hope I've made them proud. I now want to address the class of 2021 as a whole. Wow, what a year. We missed out on a lot of things, from senior homecoming to having a senior trip to being the big kids on the block in the student section at football and basketball games. Please tell me I wasn't the only one looking forward to that last perk of being a senior. But seriously, no matter how you did your learning, virtual or in person, it was hard. Maybe even tear-inducing, as was the case for me. And there was a lot of outside stress brought on by the pandemic. How could we concentrate on our studies when the threat of this virus was looming over all of our heads like a dark cloud? And our grades no doubt suffered. Mine did. I'm not ashamed to admit it. Okay, maybe a little. But regardless, we made it. We're seeing the grass on the other side, and it might not be bright green, but it's a refreshing sight to be sure. If you're here tonight in your cap and gown, I want you to know that you have so much to be proud of. You may not be aware of it, but I am. You should be, as the British say, chuffed to be here. Years down the road, you can brag about how you went through senior year in the middle of a global pandemic and lived to tell the tale, and you'd have every right to pat yourself on the back for that. If anyone tries to discount your achievements, you can tell them your salutatorian would have a bone to pick with them. That should most likely work. Let me end with my speech with some words of advice. If you didn't have the time of your life in high school, if it wasn't like the movies advertised, then don't worry. You're not alone. Movies, especially those geared towards us teens, offer us a very idealized picture of the high school experience. And thus, it's natural to feel like your experience didn't match up. So what if you didn't make lasting friends you'll get lunch with every weekend? So what if you've never had a boyfriend or girlfriend? You have the rest of your life to make friends, form relationships, and get through your bucket list. Don't think about it as being late to the party. Think about it as taking the time to assess your surroundings and learn before mingling with the crowd. The key is to keep your head up. Stay optimistic. Things are going to change for you if you believe that they will. If you don't, then you might not get the results that you want. Whatever your post-high school plans, go into them with enthusiasm. In terms of my social life, my time at Neshannock Junior Senior High School wasn't anything to write home about, but I'm hopeful for the future. I just know my college experience is going to be a blast because I'm keeping positive. I see myself getting involved and having fun rather than keeping to myself and, well, not having fun. Who knows? Maybe they'll make a movie about me. We need more movies about college kids anyway. Thank you for your time. I would now like to invite Amina Harp, class valedictorian, to the podium.
Thank you, Sophia, for the introduction. Good evening, everyone. First, I want to thank everyone that helped put together the ceremony, as well as all the guests, teachers, and faculty. You have all played a part in the success of my classmates and I and supported us through the difficulties of the past year. Our senior class has undoubtedly faced many unprecedented challenges. We have gone through our entire senior year amidst a global pandemic, and with many of us choosing the online route, our class has not been completely together for a normal school day since 11th grade. And outside of the pandemic, there have been other distractions with all the historic political events happening in such a short amount of time. But even with these disruptions, our class stayed focused and made the best of the situation. We were resilient and continued on with our education and activities while learning how to navigate COVID restrictions and use new platforms like Schoology. Learning this year has been difficult, but there are a few key factors that have helped our class this year and throughout our time at Neshannock that I would like to recognize. First, I want to give a big thank you to Quizlet. From memorizing Spanish vocab to frantically scanning lab practical Quizlets made by previous seniors 10 minutes before class, Quizlet has gotten us through a lot. Another thank you goes to SparkNotes, because I would not have understood a word of Shakespeare without their translations. But the biggest thank you goes out to our class as a whole, because together we have worked hard and helped each other make it to where we are all today. Friends and fellow classmates have been there for each other to make the best of this situation and make sure no one falls behind. However, we are human and therefore not perfect. Just like we have seen on the news throughout the year, people don't always agree or get along as they should. So, since I have the chance to pass on advice or words of wisdom to my classmates, I just want everyone to remember this. Being kind to people is the most important thing you can do in your life. When we all look back in our yearbooks in the future, we are not going to remember who ranked highest in the class, who scored the most touchdowns, or who was the most popular. We will remember people for how they treated others and whether that was with kindness or negativity. And high school is just a small part of life. It is important to remember that even with all our differences, we must treat everyone we meet in our life with kindness and respect. Before I end, I know if my classmates are anything like me, they would have preferred the SparkNotes summary of this speech. So, to sum it up, we've gone through a lot as a class, but the most important thing to take away is that we need to be kind to one another, because that is the only thing that truly matters in the end. Congratulations to all of you, and I wish you nothing but happiness and success in your future endeavors.
Thank you, Amina, and congratulations. At this time, Dr. Meehan and I will be presenting and accepting you as candidates for as graduates of Neshannock High School. Dr. Meehan, as Superintendent of Neshannock Township School District, the Pennsylvania Department of Education establishes standards for the award of a secondary school diploma. As principal of Neshannock High School, I certify that members of the class of 2021 have met these standards. At this time, I recommend these students before you be presented with a Neshannock High School diploma.
Thank you, Mr. Passarelli. Congratulations to the class of 2021. You've all heard great words of wisdom, prayer, and praise these past few days. I want to briefly echo the messages to this class. You are an amazing group of students. Your future is certain to be filled with many great experiences. There is no doubt that we will continue to hear great things about the members of this remarkable class. On behalf of the Board of School Directors, the administration, faculty, and staff, we wish you the very best and congratulate you on this important milestone in your life. It has been our honor to serve you on your educational journey. As superintendent of the schools for Neshannock Township School District, I respectfully and enthusiastically accept the recommendation for graduation made by the principal. Therefore, by the authority vested in me by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Department of Education, I hereby certify to all those present that these students have attained the requirements for graduation. Mr. David Antuano, President of the Neshannock Township School Directors, I ask that you please assist in the distribution of diplomas to the members of this year's graduating class. Mr. Passarelli, please begin the roll call of graduates. Congratulations.
Class Valedictorian, Amina Grace Harp. Class Salutatorian, Sophia Maria Hassan. Braden Daniel Brooks. Madison Nicole DiMatteo. Jennifer Marie George. Julia Corinne Germond Loudon. Michael Aurelio Morelli. John Paul Mazzocco. Victoria Ann Schultz. Alexa Rose Vital. Kendall Ray Anderson. Aiden James Andrews. Joseph Ronald Antuano. Olivia Ray Anzalone. Michael Alexander Baum. Elena Marie Buchek. Keenan Gabriel Burkett. Keenan has enlisted in the United States Navy. Jake Michael Caravella. Nicholas Michael Chaffee. Ariana Marie Conti. Patrick Anthony Koppel. Mackenzie Kayleen Crawford. Isabel Secret Criswell. Olivia Patterson Swiner. Salvatore Robert D'Antonio. Evan William Dean. Matthew James Drake. Olivia Catherine Engen. Brandon Lewis Ensko. Morgan Lee Farley. Madison Claire Fitzgerald. Marcus Harlem Ford. Tiffany Nicole Fulkerson. Sophia Elizabeth Giangiuli. Gage Maxwell Giordano. JC Nicole Graham. Daniel Sean Gunn. Jamie Elizabeth Ham. Andrew George Holt. Ava Nicole Horn. Jordan Lee Hughes. Kylie Marie Johnson. Morgan Kate Jones. Liam John Kozier. Jason Richard Kramer. Christopher Stephen Kreitzman. Emma Rose Kroner. Russell William Quat. William Connor Lasich. Justin John Lockley. Olivia Marisa Maguziak. Connor Allen Macbeth. Cameron Lewis McConnell. Mariana Grace McVeigh in absentia. Christina Ann Mimo. Gianna Lynn Mimo. Kaylee Leona Mitteff. Noah Aaron Moats. Connor Mark Montgomery. Sebastian Louis Montini. Brady William Morehouse. Joseph Anthony Morgan. Ava Grace Moses. Nicholas Matthew Mundikis in absentia. Olivia Alessandra Musquire. Olivia has enlisted in the United States Air Force. Matthew James Nativio. Bailey Noel Nacera. Riley James Novotny. Gina Marie Nuzzo. Jonathan DiCaprio Arico. Matthew Joseph Parkinen. Spencer John Perry. Christopher Michael Petronellis. Christopher Francis Powers in absentia. Arthur Anthony Prioletti. John Anthony Palco Qualero. Elena Therese Quinn. Eugene Benjamin Rosano. Julia Elizabeth Rosano. Matthew David Ritchie. Stephen Joseph Scaville. Samantha Elise Scherf. Dylan Thomas Schaefer. Logan Lawrence Shawley. Alex Brian Shea. Nathan Thomas Sink. Benjamin Martin Stoniker. Caitlin Marie Straley. Noah Arthur Sunseri. Joshua James Urban. Zoe Elizabeth Vital. Caitlin Grace Walzer. Joseph John Wardman. Katie Jo Warsinski. Isaiah John Wiley in absentia. Hunter Scott Wilkeson. Hunter has enlisted in the United States Marine Corps. Amelia Ellen Wilt. Gavin Ross Woolley. Toby James Zuniak. Reese Noel Zimmerman. Class of 2021, at this time, if you'll stand and face the audience for the turning of the tassel. The turning of the tassel on the graduation cap is symbolic of an individual's movement from candidate to graduate. It signifies the attainment of standards set forth, in this instance, by the Board of Directors of Neshannock Township School District and the Pennsylvania Department of Education. At this time, please turn your tassel from the right side of your cap to the left side of your cap to signify your graduation from Neshannock High School. So planning for this year's commencement ceremony has been a labor of love. We left our comfort zone, literally and figuratively, to work solutions that would allow for the occasion to be celebrated safely and deservedly. The list of those to thank is extensive. This process began in early spring and has lived many lives to get to this evening. One thing has remained steadfast, our desire to offer our graduates a night to remember. The planning team has gone through the whole range of emotions, pored over data, made predictions about weather, and educated guesses, while never once wavering from putting our students first. It has also been a pleasure tonight to welcome back Dr. Robert Bully to the foundation of his extraordinary life. His words are appreciated, and our graduates will carry them to their next destination. Class of 2021, you are ready to fly away. Many of the things you thought were necessary to receive a diploma have been replaced with things that have become necessary to succeed in the here and now. Your problem-solving skills and ability to find solutions will be put to the test time and again. But you're ahead of the curve. More than anything, though, we hope you find your joy and your peace. It is a great day to be a Lancer. Congratulations. Audience and graduates, at this time we will recess from the auditorium. We will begin with administration, Board of Education, and faculty. They will go line the hallway for the faculty gauntlet. We will give well-wishers in the audience a few minutes to get to the high school gym. When we find that everyone who's in there who wants to take a picture of the tossing of the cap, that's where that picture will be taken. The graduates will be standing on the bleachers. I will have a microphone. I'll cue the photograph. So again, class of 2021, you will be missed around these halls. You were missed for the last 18 months, and you'll continue to be missed. But we're used to it, I guess. At this time, though, join me in a last round of applause for the class of 2021.